What do all these movies have in common? This guy.
The day before the Oscars, and I was pouring blood out of my mouth.
Say hello to Bill Mechanic, the movie studio executive who was responsible for pretty much every major blockbuster of your childhood. These days he works as a producer. In fact, he's just finished making Hacksaw Ridge, Mel Gibson's new movie shot right here in Australia. So we decided to take him to a video store, yes, there are a few that still exist, to relive making some of the most iconic films of all time and what it's really like to work with certain people. So, I want to come here because this is one of the more impactful ones. You would have been in charge of Fox when Phantom Menace came out.
Not my favorite.
I love that you're like symbolically putting it.
When I was
like it never happened. Okay, so this is what I'm curious about, right? You know that this is the most exciting, hyped up movie that's going to happen forever. You see a cut at some point, you must realize that it's not great.
Yeah, here's the real story is, so George called and said, okay, do you want to see the movie? And we get there and George says, okay, so here's the rules. I'm going to show you the movie. We're going to have lunch afterwards and you're not allowed to talk about the movie. Didn't want to hear from us. And you're sitting there going, I just saw a movie that's 20 minutes too long, that I don't care about the trade wars, and Jar Jar Binks is walking around like, you know, and you're going, he may be a genius and I may be an idiot, but I've made 200 movies and he's made 5. And even an idiot learns something. That'll get me some fans with George. Huh?
Yeah. Arguably the biggest risk in movie making history, right up, which is Titanic.
Yeah, Titanic was the only year that I didn't go for my physical because I thought, well, I'm going to go see the doctor and he's going to say, well, your blood pressure's high. And it's like, oh, well, yeah. My boss at the time, Peter Chernin, he didn't really want to make the movie, but he didn't want to piss off Jim.
This is Jim Cameron.
Just Jim Cameron. And Jim is not an easy guy to deal with.
Why?
Mean-spirited.
Right.
You have to be ready to do bare-fisted boxing with him. You've got to argue everything out. So the picture was starting to run into trouble when I took over completely, and everybody had put their head in the sand pretending there was no problem. And at one point, we had no idea what the picture was going to cost. So we had a colossal fight, Jim and I, and he basically quit the movie. We shut down for all of about 12 hours. I didn't tell my bosses that I'd shut down a movie that was like $750,000 a day.
How much of your career has been battling in terms of like to get the movie you want made?
Yeah, even running a studio. I was under Murdoch. They hated every movie I made. So it was, everything was a battle, from Braveheart and Ice Age. Why do you think you compete with Disney? You know, so every movie was a bit of a challenge.
Do you think Rupert Murdoch gets the movie business?
I don't think he cares.
Right.
He doesn't like it. He's a newspaper guy.
The first rule of Fight Club is, you do not talk about Fight Club.
Murdoch said to me that you have to be sick to make this movie.
Every week in the cinema now, there's a superhero movie. And that golden age of superhero movies, it really starts with this X-Men.
Actually, I got fired on the week that X-Men opened because they called it my $70 million art film.
Right.
They didn't understand what I was doing. They didn't understand the movies. The last one before this had been George Clooney Batman. And so nobody thought you could make a comic book movie again. And I grew up on not just comics, but Marvel comics.
And you sold your comic book collection.
It's a true story, I sold my comic book collection to pay for my grad school in film.
Yeah, right.
And then got to Fox and bought all the rights to everything I could. And at one point I had Russell Crowe, who was supposed to play Wolverine. I met him when he came over to Los Angeles the first time. I met him with my bad script and my comic books, and I went, this will one day be a great script.
Right.
And then he won the Oscar for Gladiator and said to me, sorry, mate, can't do your movie now. So we started shooting without Wolverine, and we had to almost stop. And so I went to my head of casting, Donna, and she said, well, there's 2 people, and one of which was Hugh Jackman, and he became Wolverine.
You were involved in Independence Day?
Yeah, so this was...
a small movie. It seemed like it did okay.
It actually wasn't an expensive movie. There's very little special effects, actually, other than their models. Blowing up the White House is more important than the spaceships. In fact, the first time we tested the movie, we tested it with no spaceships, just a slot on the screen saying spaceship goes here. Bill Pullman was the first one I offered, and I offered him the pilot, and he took the president because he liked the speech better.
Yep. It's a good speech though, right?
It is a good speech.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
In addition to running movie studios and being a producer, you also produced the Oscars once as well.
Yeah.
What did you learn from producing the Oscars?
It's live in front of everybody in the world. Nobody likes what you're doing. The day before the Oscars, I woke up, went to brush my teeth, and I was pouring blood out of my mouth because the adrenaline, I went, okay, this is probably not good.
Are you nervous the day before opening day?
Oh yeah, I'm not sleeping now.
Really?
Seriously, I'm not. The worst thing that happened last night is we had a great screening and I got depressed because, Hacksaw Ridge, it's still a little train that could. We're being outspent 3-1 by Doctor Strange in the US, and so trying to get the movie over the top to be what it should be is a challenge.
How do people deal with Mel's reputation? Because it's still a thing that follows him around.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, I think this movie is going to put a lot of it behind him. There's a lot of different themes in the movie, but one of them is bullying and forgiveness. And I thought it's not condoning it. He was also drunk. He's 10 years sober, so it's at some point, get past it.
What do you do to calm your nerves?
Keep working. You're hired to be fired, so don't get fired over something that you don't believe in. The worst moment of all the moments is when it's out of your hands. There's nothing more to do. You've spent your money, you've pushed your ad, you've done everything you can do, and you're in the hands of the movie gods, and sometimes they're smiling at you and sometimes they're not. So it's total kind of hell.
It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I literally could do this for hours, but I feel like you have other things you need to do.